Wait, wait. With the sound of the coachman stopping his horse, the carriage that had been running nonstop stopped. Ayla, who had fallen asleep while sitting in her carriage, woke up to the sound. He stuck his head out the window and looked ahead. The entrance to Grunfeld, a small town west of Venator, looked small from a distance. After several days of traveling, they finally reached their destination. We will arrive soon. Give this to the lady. Cloud handed a small jar to Laura through the window on the other side. It looked similar to the glass bottle that Ayla had hidden in her belt, but it was a slightly larger glass bottle and the liquid inside was also a different color. It was a slightly greenish-brown liquid that she would never want to drink. But Ayla already knew that she was destined to drink it soon, because that's how it was in the past. Here, miss. Eat this. It is a medicine that temporarily changes the color of hair and eyes. Yeah. In the past, he drank it because he was fascinated to hear that it would change the color of his hair and eyes, but he had a strong memory of frowning because it had no taste. Maybe that's why he couldn't muster the courage to drink the magic potion. Drink it now, madam. You must take the medicine before we can leave again. It's okay, Laura. Ayla covered her nose to block out the smell and swallowed the medicine in one gulp, for it was clear that if she tried to smell it, she would experience taste terror and even olfactory pain. All kinds of terribly bitter, sour, and even sweet flavors attacked her taste buds indiscriminately and Ayla trembled in pain. Still, maybe the medicine was taking effect, his scalp and eyes began to itch. Now let's start again. Cloud was observing the scene outside the window, giving a signal to the driver, and the carriage moved slowly again. It's incredible every time I see it. He looked at his hair, which had lost its shiny silver color. Her hair, braided into 2 braids, had become the brown hair that was commonly seen everywhere. Maybe the eyes had also changed to the same color. It was kind of strange, but it tasted really horrible. The strong taste still seemed to linger on his tongue, so he tried to remove it by moving his tongue. Meanwhile, the carriage had already arrived at the gate guarded by the guard. The guard who checked the forged ID opened the carriage one by one as if he was dissatisfied with it. The same thing happened with the carriage Ayla was riding in. Excuse me, miss. Although it was not that luxurious, she was dressed like a low-ranking noble, so the guard greeted her politely and closed the door. Even after inspecting the carriage he was riding in, the safety inspection continued. At a time when she was engrossed in her thoughts about whether all cities were like this, she overheard the conversation of passers-by outside. My God! What kind of inspection is this? Why is it so unusual? You didn't know? That is. He pricked up his ears and focused on the conversations of passers-by, hoping to find out why the security was so tight, but unfortunately, the inspection was over and the carriage had left at this time, so he couldn't hear the reason. It can't be a coincidence. The security was tighter than usual, and although he couldn't avoid going to that place, Byron went there deliberately. It could never have been a coincidence. Perhaps this security is also for the young lion. If this trip had really been to follow that lion, it certainly would have been like this. She didn't know exactly who he was, but he must be at least the same level as the Duke or higher. The carriage carrying her continued on its way for a long time after entering Grunfeld and came to a tavern with a sign that said the Wild Goose Tavern. It was a pretty big bar. It seemed like the entire 3-story building was occupied. The first-floor lounge was decorated as a bar and the second floor was decorated as an in-type accommodation place. And Byron's group must have rented the entire place, so there were no guests in the spacious hall. Even the owner, who was supposed to be guarding the counter, handed the key to Cloud and left the bar with a smile on his face. It seems like he woke up and received a lot of money. You probably handled it without a problem, right? Byron, who was the last to get off the carriage and enter the tavern very arrogantly, asked in an arrogant voice. He must have drank the same potion as her, and his hair and eyes were brown. Yeah. Sometimes the big top is rented entirely, so you won't suspect a thing. Byron nodded as if satisfied with Cloud's answer and entered his room with Capella's guidance. Miss, please come up too. Laura yawned tiredly and took Ayla to the third-floor room. I'll stay in this room for about 3 days. In the meantime, you'll have to eat in this room, because it's dangerous outside. He can't even look out the window. This is a dangerous place with many people. Laura raised her chin and reprimanded Ayla in an arrogant voice. Even though she had been on the move for several days and her eyes were full of fatigue, she seemed the same as always. Okay, I understand, Ayla said in a grumpy voice. He already expected it. It was something he had already experienced in his previous life, and it would have been a big deal if he had looked out the window and someone had seen his dazzling silver hair. In the past, I couldn't even look out the window, but I was excited because it was amazing to be in a place with people nearby. Cloud said that he was always busy and couldn't see the young girls training. So you can rest well in this room for a few days. My lady, your arms are limp. She didn't know what could be so good about taking a break from training for just a few days, but Laura clicked her tongue in disapproval and continued. But Ayla didn't even have the presence of mind to get angry at the sight. It was because I was wondering what the hell Cloud was doing that he was so busy that he even took a break from his daily training, so my whole mind was focused on that. Even if it rained, training was done indoors. He couldn't control his curiosity, but he couldn't do anything at the moment. Just waiting for the night to come. However, when the long-awaited night finally arrived, Ayla couldn't be happier. You can sleep with me tonight, miss, Capella said in a hard voice. Ayla cried internally and looked briefly at where she had hidden the sleeping pills. It seemed that tonight was not the time to use medicine. Ugh, I understand. Capella. What was more terrifying was that every time she moved to the inn, Capella and Laura had to watch her alternately. One night it was Capella and the next day it was Laura. He watched Ayla with his eyes open all night. It was not a forest or a mountainous area without unauthorized people, so it was natural that security would be tighter. Capella's surveillance was not pleasant for Ayla, who was eager to know what Cloud was doing and why Byron was there. You don't know it, Laura, but it's dangerous to put Capella to sleep with sleeping pills. The owner of the sleeping pill she manufactured was not Capella, but her daughter. If Laura was still young, there was a good chance that she would hide the fact that she fell asleep after her guard duty for fear of being scolded, but Capella was different. With her sights set on avenging her husband, there was no way she could fall asleep without looking at Ayla. He suddenly realized that if he couldn't overcome his drowsiness, he would definitely suspect Ayla. I guess I'll have to wait until tomorrow. Capella was also human, so he couldn't stay up all night watching her, so Laura would definitely come tomorrow night. Afterwards, all he had to do was put Laura to sleep with the medicine he had prepared and leave the inn. Ayla went to sleep thinking about what she would have to do later. What happened to your instructions? Byron twirled the glass in his hand. The clear liquid contained in the glass moved as it moved. I have prepared it just as you asked me. There will surely be a little commotion soon. His ever-loyal right-hand man, Cloud, spoke with a deep and trustworthy voice. Yes, that's how it is. Cloud never disobeyed his orders. He never made a mistake by doing what he was told. Byron smiled and took a sip of the drink in his glass. It was a strong liquor with a pleasant aroma. The strong alcohol went down and burned my throat. However, I have to change my plans a little. Byron frowned and set his glass down on the desk. He was smiling as always. Please speak. Cloud seemed taken aback for a moment by his master's sudden change of plan, but soon responded in a calm voice. Byron raised the corners of his mouth as if he liked her attitude. Kill him. Byron opened his mouth and cruel words fell from his lips. He didn't know who he was telling him to kill, but it was a voice that betrayed no trace of his guilt. "Who are you talking about?" Cloud's voice, who had maintained a calm attitude the entire time, trembled slightly. The sudden instructions seemed confusing. "That guy. My nephew." Byron crossed his legs again, holding his glass in his hand. He had a relaxed appearance that couldn't be seen as someone who ordered the death of someone, especially his own nephew. "Master, that is." Cloud's eyes trembled slightly. Byron took another sip of his drink and snorted. "Because the wall was small. Isn't he going to kill me someday anyway? It's just that he does it a little early. See the opportunity and kill him." But wasn't the goal this time to continue their journey and cause a bit of commotion? At Cloud's question, Byron frowned.